So let's start the discussion focusing on the two groups, basic grains and milling and baking divisions, and Competition Commission issues with Pioneer Foods. Bring that back to the table.
Yes, so that was the Western Cape, because remember Pioneer's operations in the bread division, which is Sasco. So they basically buy in the grains, they mill them, and then they produce Sasco Sam, you know, the charming looking little slice of bread man on the side of the wheat thing. And then Tiger Brands' major operation in that area is Albany. I'm sure everybody's seen the creaky old Albany truck belting around the suburbs, going to all the corner cafes in the early hours of the morning. What they discovered a couple of years back was collusion in regard to price of the bread products and in terms of where it was being delivered. Oh, terrible gnashing of teeth and beating on the breast and big fines. Really didn't look good, because of course that's a targeted product right at the middle end and lower end of the market. So big fines were paid, heads rolled, boards replaced, executives after great careers taken out. But I think those operations are certainly there, and they're very substantial and, you know, pretty profitable. I think now that's kind of behind us, and a good thing too, because clearly that was not at all acceptable from a corporate behavior point of view.
And it was Nick Dennis's time at Tiger Brands.
Yeah, and that was a great tragedy, because Nick Dennis can really be credited with the formation of Tiger Brands as a modern conglomerate in the food area, and his career was, you know, besmirched by that incident at the end of his 30-year career.
So Daniel, we've moved on from Competition Commission issues.
Yes.
Where do we stand now in the baking milling division?
So, okay, so the two brands looking at them, Tiger Brands is, like Paul said, that's Albany, and Pioneer is Sasco bread. They've also got maize, which is Ace and White Star, and they've also got rice in those respective
So
divisions.
they go head on in those three products?
So they go head on. Now, Tiger Brands Albany is number one in the bread category in the country, and Pioneer is number two. But Pioneer's maize product is number one, and Tiger Brands, I think it's Tiger Brands, is number two or number three. The thing is, in these categories, bread is the majority top line earner, and it's the majority margin producer. So, I mean,
so Tiger Brands is ahead, with Albany being the front runner there.
So, I mean, you can see that clearly from the margins in these divisions. I mean, if you go into the segmentals of these companies, the Sasco division in Pioneer has margins ranging from about 9 to 11%. The milling and baking division in Tiger Brands has margins ranging from about 20 to 26%. So, you know, having that, first of all, being dominant in a massive category like bread, and being dominant so you can charge premium prices, allows you quite a headway in terms of getting the margin that you need.
But surely bread is also price sensitive. So I mean, if Sasco Sam wanted to move ahead, surely you could be competitive on price. Bearing in mind, you obviously will impact your margins, but volume should give you a kicker. Would that not make sense?
So bread is price sensitive. Look, these companies are very sensitive to the pricing volume dynamic, because there are quite significant fixed costs installed to produce these loaves of bread. If they cut back on pricing just to produce the volumes, that wouldn't necessarily offset the large fixed cost base.
So they've already thought about that strategy. I'm coming in a bit late.
Exactly. Plus, you could always have. I mean, if they drop below what you could conceivably, what you would think is which you would think is normal for the market, Tiger Brands could just jump in and drop to the same level, so they would just get rid of their profit and get no volumes. So these guys all play a very careful, strategic game. It's not just a case of dropping your prices, let the volume soar, and it's good times.
So I shouldn't be heading up either
and
Tiger Brands or Pioneer Foods.
another thing to note about the South African consumer is that whilst they are price sensitive, they're quaintly brand loyal as well. And I think that's a function of this having been a market in which quite a strong signal has been put out by the food and other companies with regard to brands. So it's advertising and all of that stuff. The advertising spend is quite significant. So over the years, South African consumers, even poor ones, have been like quaintly loyal to, you know, their particular
Which brand
favorite.
are you loyal to?
Well, it's all sorts of things. It's like people will stick with Omo and with Albany and with, you know, all sort of.
Those are your select brands.
Yes,
obviously.
now I'm very keen on Omo. I'm a big supporter of Omo when it comes to my washing. Yes, it's true.
So are we saying in this division that we have got Tiger Brands edging ahead purely because of the Albany affiliation or Albany affiliation?
So, well, yes. I mean, that would be a fair comment, but it's also it's quite a detailed process in terms of the wheat that you use, the production process that you have. This all contributes to the varying quality of the bread. And I mean, remember something that for shoppers like us, for example, we walk in, we buy Woolworths, we buy this, we buy that. For the majority of shoppers who, for example, don't have a fridge, for them, if a loaf of bread lasts 2 or 3 days longer than another loaf of bread, that's massively important to them.
And another case in point would be rice. So Tastic is Tiger Brands' brand, very dominant. They buy in the grains from Asia and all that sort of thing. Pioneer's brand is called Specco, which is targeted at the lower end market, but then you get people giving pushback about how much 1 cup of Tastic turns into when cooked compared to Specco, and they had some big fights, went to the ASA and so on and so forth. But consumers, like Daniel says, might say, well, I'm going to stick with Tastic even though it's a little bit more expensive because I know it gives me better yield when I cook it, all that sort of stuff.
Okay, I'm still trying to get an answer out of you as to who is ahead in this. Is it Tiger Brands or Pioneer?
Well, it's
leaning
a
to Tiger Brands.
It's a category for category thing. It depends,
But
who's got the dominant position.
If Tiger Brands is ahead on rice and they're ahead on bread, and they are behind on the maize.
But bread trumps the rest in this category. So if you are ahead on bread, that pretty much means you're ahead in this category.